Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily word this morning. It is Wednesday, July 6th. It is a beautiful, rainy morning. Actually, our power flickered a little bit ago. You can see I'm home. I'm working a little bit this morning. Had a rough night of not feeling well and a lot of pain, so I'm a little slow this morning. So I'm just working from home a little bit, and then we'll head out after a bit. So, the rain is a great thing for us, and we celebrate what it means for us as we live our lives together and as it refreshes the earth and it refreshes us. It was interesting. It was just the other day that someone said to me, seriously, they weren't in jest, can't you make it rain? And I said, no, I can't make it rain. I pray for rain. I've prayed for rain before. But God can make it rain. And like I said yesterday, it'll rain. It'll rain. And as we know, God cares for the earth. And rain comes and drought comes and heat comes and cold comes, but God is always present with us. And so for this morning, I've chosen just this one verse from the book of Jeremiah. So this is part of a bigger thing in this chapter 6 verse of Jeremiah. Jeremiah is warning to the people of Israel, and you could read the whole thing and get the gist of it. But this one verse I thought was interesting as a follow up from yesterday's scripture about from the Ten Commandments about keeping the Sabbath and keeping it holy, and that the Sabbath is for us to use to honor God. It's not about us, it's about God. And that's an interesting perspective that I don't think I've thought much about, and I'm sure we all haven't thought much about, but this whole idea that when we take Sabbath, whatever that looks like. Now, I know that it can't always happen on Sunday morning. Some folks have to work, other things happen, but when we take Sabbath, I like to think of our Wednesday night gathering as Sabbath. You know, we gather for food, we gather around the table, we share in scripture, we share our lives together. For me, that's Sabbath. And it's a way that we, at least for the hour and a half that we're together, that we slow down a bit and we are in relationship with other people and we take stock in those relationships. And I think that's important for us to do. So, in line with that, Jeremiah, in this warning, we get to verse 16, and Jeremiah says this: the Lord proclaims, stand at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the ancient paths. Where is the good way? Then walk in it and find a resting place for yourselves. It's an interesting challenge for us in the way we live our lives. We are connected 24/7. And we do that on purpose, and it's a good thing in lots of ways. You know, many people know that they can contact me any time of the day or night. I give my cell phone freely. They can text me, they can email me, they can call me, and folks do. Early this morning, a friend is having surgery today. And early this morning, that friend texted me and said, I'm here, I'm checked in, I'm ready to go, just waiting for my turn. And that was early. And I replied back, I'll be praying for you this entire day. Please have someone let me know how it goes. That was early this morning. We live lives like that, and those are really good things. I think, you know, we sometimes lament about going back to the old days. You know, when we didn't have cell phones, we were never connected. You know, when our phones were connected to these long cords and everyone heard your conversation, that we played in the mud and had to get yelled at to come home and ride our bikes. Look, I lived like that. I was raised like that. Those are really good things. But then there is also this, I think, good way that we're connected to each other in powerful ways. But yet, there is this reminder from Jeremiah about how we're also called to live our lives. Stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the ancient paths. Where is the good way? Then walk in it and find a resting place for yourselves. To me, this reminder from Jeremiah takes us back to the commandment to honor the Sabbath and to honor it to God. Because I think the best way that we find rest is to go deep inside of ourselves. You know, I think about all those things that I did growing up. We wore bikes out. You know, we just wore them out. We rode them everywhere. I still like to ride my bike. I have a pretty tall bike, and I want to try to ride again. And so I actually own some adult training wheels, if you will. They're not called that, but that's really what they are. And my bike's at the camper, and late this afternoon I'm going to go there, and maybe tomorrow, if I don't get rained out, I'm going to get those training wheels on my bike and see if it works, see if I can do it. But we go back into those deep places of ours, the ancient paths, and we remember and we honor those things, and then we ask God in the midst of all of our lives to then help us find a resting place. And we need that in life, right? I haven't taken, it's my own fault, I haven't taken a real vacation. Well, you know, COVID kind of shut all that down. I haven't taken a real vacation since all of us, my family, Dustin and Mindy, Kelsey and Connor, and the kids went to North Carolina a couple years ago. And now that we have babies, going back is going to be a couple more years before we can do that again. And I keep trying to convince Diane to go on vacation, but she doesn't want to. We have another baby on the way. Dustin and Mindy's baby's coming soon, and then Hudson has to get tubes in his ears, and his tonsils are adenoids out, and you know, Grandpa can't be too far away, I guess. But I'm actually going to take a couple weeks off in a row from preaching, which is interesting, and have a guest preacher, which we haven't done for a while. And I'm just going to be at the camper. I'm going to be at the lake for those couple of weeks. I remember, you know, growing up, where we camped and we camped and we camped a lot, and we had a great time. There are some great pictures of us dirty as pigs in the Wisconsin Dells and in other places, and at the state park at Indian Lake, which is why I love Indian Lake so much. We rode our bikes until they fell apart almost. We rode and rode and rode. We had a tandem bike, and I look deep inside of myself, as the scripture says, and I ask God for the ancient paths. To stand at the crossroads, ask God for the ancient paths, and then find myself in it. And in the hustle and bustle of our world, and in all the chaos of our world, and all the temptation we have to respond to everything political that comes across our social media and to lash out at who we dislike, I think we're missing part of this, what Jeremiah warns us about. What we really need to do is stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for ancient paths, and those ancient paths are deep inside of us. One of the things that I've started to do, and I've got a pretty good start, I'm writing my memoir. I'm writing the book. I'm not a good writer necessarily, but there's lots of stories I want to tell. I want my grandkids to know, and my great-grandkids, and even my own kids for that matter. And I have to look deep inside me and for the ancient paths, the stories I want to tell, so that in the future, my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids They can hear my ancient paths stories and they can walk in it and find a resting place. That's what God, I think, wants for us. So maybe we have to disconnect, from our cell phones. Hard to do. Maybe we have to, really, what we have to do is heed the warning from Jeremiah. Read the entire chapter of Jeremiah 6. Heed the warning. And then stand at the crossroad and see where it is that God leads. And I think in our walk, in our Christian journey together, that's what God calls us to. When we gather on Sunday morning or Wednesday night, I don't pull it off very well, I suppose, but it's my hope, it's my yearning, that we do this, that we find ways to stand at the crossroad and that God meets us where we are. So, that's where God, I think, wants us to be in these tumultuous days. Like I said yesterday, when people say to me all the time, I'm just tired, I'm just tired, I'm just tired, it's because we haven't stood at the crossroad, I think. And if we're just tired, and we're so frustrated with all the stuff that's going on, it's because I think we haven't stood at the crossroad and asked for the ancient paths. Help us, God, to do that. And maybe we too can find rest where we need it. So, if that's a good word for you, thank God for the rain that refreshes us today. Know of God's mercy and grace that surrounds you. If I get those training wheels put on my bike and they work, so it requires me using some tools, which will be an interesting challenge. I'll send you a picture and we'll see how it works. So know of God's love today. Know of God's grace and mercy. Know of my love for you. And I will be hopefully at the lake tomorrow morning, and I will see you there at 10 o'clock. Have a great day, my friends.